And Tamara, let me know once it's started so we can start. Good to go? Okay, great. Okay, wonderful. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining for tonight's Homegrown Minneapolis Food Council meeting. Again, my name is Kate Siebold, and I'm the co-chair of Homegrown Minneapolis along with Segatamina. And we're so appreciative to everyone who's joined us tonight for this meeting. We've got some great things on the agenda, so we're really excited to dive into that. So I'd like to start by noting that this meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized under Minnesota statute section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. And I also want to mention that we are piloting a new way for community members to be participating in our virtual meetings tonight. So rather than having community members only be able to call in by phone, we have community members joining us on Microsoft Teams, and we're really excited that we can have them participating this way. So, you might note we have more participants appearing in our video screen. Please just keep yourself muted when not speaking, just to avoid background noise as we now have more people on the call. And to keep the meeting moving along, once we get into our presentations, we just ask that we hold questions to the end, and we'll make sure to offer opportunities for folks to chime in with questions. And I'll also note that on Teams, there's a chat function, but please do remember that we do have some participants that are still calling in by phone, and they're not able to see that chat. So I will make sure I'll do my best to verbally communicate anything that shows up in the chat, but I would also welcome if you have any relevant information to share that verbally. And also remember that anything shared in the chat will appear later in the public meeting minutes from this meeting. So I'm going to now call this meeting to order and ask Tamara to take the roll call so that we can verify the presence of our quorum. So council members, we have already introduced our community members tonight. So now when you hear your name, please say present and introduce yourself with your name and any organization or affiliation you may like to share. And we're also trying something new tonight where we share one word of how we're feeling or where we're at as we join this meeting tonight. So with that, I'll ask Tamara to call the roll.
Okay. Swato Abdi.
No.
Anderson. Beth Julie. Dre Eger. Mullen Green.
Present. And I represent Twin Cities Co-op Partners. And I guess my word would be salads, because I'm a huge fan of salads. I just ate a Caesar salad tonight. And summer is the time for really great salads. So.
Indeed. Becca Gross.
Present. I'm the community garden coordinator for the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board. And I'm going to go with burrito because I just ate one for dinner while my camera was off.
Kim Havey. Andrea Inouye.
Present, and I am here on behalf of the mayor's office. And between the vaccine and the sun today, I am feeling reemergent.
Love it. Marcus Carr. Kristen Klingler.
Present. Hi, everyone. This is Kristen Klingler. I'm representing the Minneapolis Health Department, specifically the Healthy Living team. And my word is warm. I'm soaking up the sun as it comes through my window, and it feels great.
Indeed, it does. Amy Maz.
Present. I work in waste reduction and recycling with Hennepin County, and my word is transplant. So I'm looking at the long range forecast, and I think I can get most of my seedlings out pretty soon.
Hooray. Emily Mingy.
Present. I'm with Land Stewardship Project, and I will say motion because I'm out for a walk right now.
Okay, Ibrahim Mohammed.
Present. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So present. I work for Appetite for Change. I'm the urban farm manager there, and the word I would pick is thirsty, because it's the last day of Ramadan, and I've been working in the greenhouse, and I'm really thirsty, and yeah, and grateful too. So.
Thank you, Ibrahim. I hope you can get a nice cold glass of water as soon as you are able to enjoy that again. Devon Nolan. I saw you in the meeting. Let's see. We'll come back to, unless Devon, you're able to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, great. Hotep. Von Nolan with Appetite for Change on the West Broadway Farmers Market. We're excited to be celebrating our 11th season this coming June, and also within us, our Fresh Coalition. And I missed the question. What was the question?
Just one word to describe how you're feeling today.
Today, I don't know. There's so many words. You want me to pick one that's really hard? Day. Ambitious. I'm feeling really ambitious. Thank you. What's up?
I love that, Devon. You are so welcome to be here and ambitious. I love it. Teresa O'Kine. Tasha Powell. Aiden Reed. Ellen Schnoes.
Hey everyone, Helen Schnoes with the Minnesota Department of Ag. My word was also warm, so I'm going to do a repeat, but stay with it for warm.
Great. Councilmember Jeremy Schrader.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeremy Schrader. I'm a city council member for Minneapolis and also food council member. My word would be gooseberries. I added some gooseberry bushes to my food forest in the back, and I thought I killed them, and they're back, so I'm really excited about that.
That's good news. Tiffany Lachey. I understand Tiffany may have needed to do something with irrigation for a moment. We will circle back in a moment to Tiffany. Jason Walker. Mai Yang.
Oh, hello everyone. I'm with Minneapolis Health. My word will be green tea. I'm feeling a little bit chilly.
Well, I hope you can warm up with some delicious tea. Co-chair Sega Tamina.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sega or Saga Tamana, and I serve as one of the co-chairs. I work with Pillsbury United Communities. I am feeling alive. I traveled on an airplane for the first time in a long time a few days ago. So feeling alive.
Hooray. Co-chair Kate Siebold.
Hi, everyone. Again, Kate Siebold, co-chair, and I work for Minneapolis Public Schools and coordinate our farm to school program. And my word is green. I love how much green there is outside.
Yes. Tiffany Lachey. Well, We have 13 members present, so we do have a quorum. We have an official meeting, and I feel sunny all around. So,
wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, council members, community members, city staff who've joined us, and also, yeah, waited with us as we got to quorum. I'll just double check. Is there anyone who's on this call who hasn't had an opportunity to introduce themselves? Okay, great, wonderful. So with that, we'll proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. So our first two items of business is the adoption of our agenda for tonight's meeting, followed by the acceptance of our minutes from our last meeting on April 14th. And this is something a little new, but we have learned that we can combine these two items of business if we receive a proper motion to do so. Is there a motion from a council member to approve tonight's agenda and accept the April 14th minutes? If so, please unmute yourself and say your name.
Motion to approve minutes and agenda.
Great,
And
thank
no,
you. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Devon Nolan.
Okay, great, we've got a second. Thanks, Devon. We have a proper motion before us. Is there any discussion before we take the roll? Okay, fantastic. So with that, I'll ask Tamara to take the roll on this motion. Council members, when you hear your name, please say yay or nay.
okay. Swado Abdi, Mel Anderson, Beth Dooley, Andrea Ager, Nolan Green,
yay.
Becca Gross,
Yay.
Havey, Andrea Inouye,
Yay.
Marcus Carr, Kristen Klingler,
Yay.
Amy Maas,
Yay.
Emily Mingy,
Yay.
Ibrahim Mohammed, Ibrahim Mohammed, Devon Nolan,
Yay.
Teresa Opheim, Tasha Powell, Aiden Reed, Helen Schnoes.
Aye.
Councilmember Jeremy Schrader,
Aye. Yay.
Tiffany Lachey, Jason Walker, Mai Yang,
Yay.
Sega Tamina,
Yay.
Kate Siebold.
Yay.
So is there anyone who has not expressed their vote, food council members in the call? We are short one vote right now. Hold on a moment.
It looked like there was someone who joined by phone in the middle of the call, or in the middle of the vote. So if
Okay,
that was a
let's see.
council member.
Ibrahim or Tiffany, have either of you rejoined?
Hi, I'm here. This is Tiffany.
Oh, okay, great. Would you like to vote yay or nay in favor of the agenda and minutes?
Yay.
Wonderful. We have approved the agenda and minutes.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. So now we get to move on to the exciting part of our meeting tonight, which is presentations, and we have some really wonderful guests with us tonight, including our first special guest is Assistant Commissioner Patrice Bailey from Minnesota Department of Agriculture. We're so excited to have you joining us tonight, and I'm going to pass it off to fellow Councilmember Helen Schnoes to introduce Assistant Commissioner Bailey.
Cool, thanks, Kate. Hey, everyone. I'm really thrilled that Assistant Commissioner Bailey is joining us today to share about his journey and the work we're doing at the Department of Ag. Just a few things, that I kind of wanted to say as a means of introduction is that Assistant Commissioner Bailey is really helping lead our emerging farmer work, and he'll speak more about that. But I think, as this council would appreciate, that means thinking about how we help emerging farmers in the metro and our urban areas as well as our rural areas, and how we build connections between those two places. Some of the cool projects he's led include getting a grant from the Minnesota Historical Society to do an oral history collection of Black farmers in Minnesota, as well as general support for what we do at the MDA to help folks buy local food, whether it's schools or individual consumers. And he and I have particularly worked closely together as part of our COVID-19 response and helped build partnerships with the Latino Economic Development Center and the Metropolitan Economic Development Association to make sure some of our federal relief funding was going to BIPOC farmers and ag workers and the organizations that they support. So we helped steer $500,000 of relief to Minnesotans, who are maybe falling through some of the cracks of other programs last year. So there's so much more we could share, but I am a pale in comparison to what AC Bailey can say himself. So I will turn it over, and looking forward to hearing, and appreciate opening up the space for his presentation.
I just want to say thank you so much for having me here. And Helen always does, she just does justice everywhere she goes. So I'm extremely proud of her for all the work that she has done and continues to do for MDA and for the community. This is my first time actually at the Homegrown Minneapolis Food Council. I'm surprised that it's been the first time, but it's first time for everything. I just want to say thank you so much for having me. Like Helen said, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in regards to emerging farmers throughout the country, but also within the state of Minnesota. And right now we're going through a legislative conference committee right now. So every day is another strategy of trying to get a really good ag package for the state. And hopefully we'll meet the deadline of not going to a special session, but I know we're going to go into a special session because we're nowhere near where we need to be. So that is where we are today. But no, I just wanted to do a presentation that is sort of from my beginnings of growing up in Harlem to where we are today, which is that agricultural road from Harlem to MDA. And so I know everyone have received the PowerPoint. So Tamara, you think should I share it, or do you have it?
You can share your screen if you would like to manage the slides. Otherwise, I can share it if you prefer that way. Either way.
Okay, I think I don't know if you can see it, but it's right over here. No, that's not it. It's not that one.
This is always the trick.
It's always the trick because I always leave it right there so that I can find it. But want to make sure that I have everything that I need right here.
I'm happy to pull it up if you would like me to do that.
Yeah, if you have it.
Sure. Mhm.
Yeah, if you have it, that would be great. So as Tamara is actually pulling that up, um, I'm just going to say that my road from Harlem um, to MDA has definitely been a very arduous one, but it's definitely been extremely uh, thankful, and it's definitely been a blessing. As you can see, where I grew up was 5 blocks away from the Apollo, world famous Apollo. And so, as you can see, there's no agriculture. So I'm going to have you go to the next slide. So this is a split screen. On the right is 125th Street, and 125th Street used to be a very industrial mecca of um, urban life here. There's no agriculture there, so growing up in New York, specifically in Harlem, agriculture wasn't something that anyone has heard of as something of wanting to be interested in, and so it wasn't something until my senior year, and my mom was asking me when and what are you going to do in 6 months because you're going to graduate. You can't stay here. So I said, well, I'm going to be a lawyer. And she said, there's too many lawyers, so why don't you do something where you could feed yourself? And I said, well, what is that? And she said, why don't you do agriculture? Fine. So I find myself going to Texas. Prairie View A&M is where I went for undergrad for agriculture. And so I said, I'm going to give it a chance. I'll give it a year. So we'll go to the next slide. The next slide is just more of New York. Still no agriculture, just the hustle and bustle of New York life, city that never sleeps. And then we'll go to the next slide. So the stereotype that's always there is that I was wrestling with is I want to be a lawyer, but then I had this negative connotation about bib overalls. I only had one opportunity to wear a pair in my life, but the stereotype nonetheless was there of Black people in my opinion at that time. I didn't see a lot in agriculture, and the only person that I actually knew of at the time was George Washington Carver. And so I was still thinking about, well, maybe, there's more to come when I go to Texas. And so I found myself going to Prairie View, A&M. And when I got to Prairie View, the next slide, when I got to Prairie View, things really started to change. I still had some negativity, but I was still hopeful and open to some of the possibilities that agriculture, really uh, would afford me if I sort of gave that a chance. So here I am, and we can go to the next slide. So I'm going to go to the next slide again. So when I was talking about the worldview, when I grew up, there used to be this guy on the left-hand side from Petra's Farm. He used to do these commercials, and he used to talk about how great the bread was and Petra's Farm cookies and so forth. And I found myself at the World Food Expo with some of my professors. This was the first time that a city kid like myself got a chance to see agriculture in um, a big uh, coliseum sort of a way, and it really opened my eyes as I came in, because my stereotype at the time was sort of the knee high in July, bib overalls, John Deere tractor stereotype. But when I walked in, it was big business, and you're talking about Petra's Farm and glacier water and Coca-Cola, and I just couldn't understand that. Wow, this is still agriculture. But I saw this guy on the left-hand side. His name is Charlie Welch, and I was telling him that, sort of what my journey was up to this point, and he was just telling me that agriculture is something you have to look beyond, not for the day, but for what it looks like in the future. And so that conversation with him actually changed my whole worldview. And after leaving there, I really saw agriculture in a whole new light. And so I'm going to bring the presentation up to where we are today. So in the next slide, here's a series of Fortune 500 companies, three of which are headquartered here in Minnesota. That would be General Mills, Land O'Lakes, and Target. And then we have our local food systems of food and markets here in terms of farmers markets. And, this is something that we don't correlate when it comes to underrepresented communities, that these organizations that are present are still agricultural bases in terms of the core of not only the agricultural companies, but also that Minnesota is a huge ag state. So with these Fortune 500 companies that are headquartered here, there still lies a problem when it comes to Minnesota. The next slide, we're talking about disparities, racial inequality when it comes to BIPOC farmers. As you see this graphic here, this is 1 being the worst and 5 being the sort of the best when it came to racial inequality. As you can see, Wisconsin is the worst, and this is based on 2018 data. And then Minnesota, as you can see, is number 2. So we have quite a ways of work to do. So most of our, out of 6 million people, most of the population of Black folks are actually housed, concentrated into Hennepin County, which is on the next slide. And as you can see, based on 2019 data, we have 80% that are housed in the 7-county metro. So everyone else is sort of in different counties. But even with these statistics here, we're talking about a huge state. And out of 6 million people, we have some big problems here when it comes to emerging farmers. So the question is, what is an emerging farmer? I would say that an emerging farmer, next slide, I would say that an emerging farmer is someone that has 0 experience to 10 years experience. There's someone who is thinking about, how do I sort of have entry within to agriculture? How do I go from a customer to a producer to a to an entrepreneur? And so we're actually seeing that the average age of a farmer is 56 years old. And as baby boomers are starting to retire, you have this emergence of emerging farmers that are not, it's not the norm in terms of sort of what BIPOC farms are actually looking like. So in 2019, when I had started, one of the things that we wanted to do was to find out, well, how many emerging farmers are there and where are they? So I'm gonna have you go to the next slide. Well, what we found that we did 6 listening sessions. We started in the fall of 2019. We started in Crookston, and then we ended our way in Rochester at the end. What we noticed is that based on the 2017 census data, there is about 39 registered Black farmers, BIPOC farmers. And that is, we know that that number is not accurate, but that number is based on who actually owns land versus those who rent land. And it's a big dichotomy when you're looking at those 2 separate entities right there. It's just like the regular census in regards to those who participate into the Ag Census, that data will be reflected. So the Ag Census, for those who may not know, is a census that comes out every 5 years, as opposed to the regular census for consumers that comes out every 10 years. And so next year, 2022, the next Ag Census will actually come out. I'm hoping that the data will be extremely high when it comes to BIPOC farmers. But with all the things that are going on in regards to the American Rescue Plan Act, Justice for Black Farmers Act, and just the whole push around urban agriculture, local sustainable food systems, we're actually starting to see that question about where are emerging farmers in Minnesota, they're starting to pop up in a lot of different areas that you normally wouldn't see people of color, such as Pine County, and you see them in Rice County, and they're in Isanti County. You're starting to see them in a lot of different areas around the state. And so the education around who is a farmer and what does the farmer look like, still continues to be pervasive. One of the things that I was doing before pre-COVID is that I would go into the schools, primarily the middle school to high school range. And one of the things that I would do is I'd go dressed up in a suit and I would ask students about, so what does a farmer look like? And they would come up with these stereotypes, that, the John Deere hat and the bib overalls, and they're driving this Case New Holland tractor. And I said, well, why can't a farmer look like myself? And there's always this awkward pause of, well, you can't do that because there's not any black farmers, or there are so few black farmers that it doesn't correlate to kids when they're thinking about it. And I firmly believe that kids can't be what they can't see, period, especially within the state of Minnesota. So that being said, where are our emerging farmers? They are everywhere. It's just that there's not a concentrated number of emerging farmers because they're in a lot of different markets. I have you go to the next slide. So as you can see here, so we did one of two reports. This data is based on the 2017 census when we did the 2020 report. And as you can see, that the population of white farmers is 84%. But the percentage of white farmers within Minnesota compared to BIPOC farmers is really just 100 to 1, if you're looking at the disparities, within the numbers. And that has to do with, in Minnesota, there's 110,000 white farms that are in the state. And out of that number, have you go to the next slide. Out of that number, you're looking at everything from Hispanic to Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander. If you add those numbers up, it's about 1,269, and that's combined. And if you're looking at 117, 110,000 thereabouts number of farms in Minnesota, 1,269 is nothing. And we want to be able to change these demographics to reflect the constituency of Minnesota, of consumers that are buying not only local, but those who are producers on a larger scale who are doing e-commerce and doing direct marketing. So the next slide. So part of when we did the listening sessions, we had talked about a lot of, so what are the barriers that are preventing people to entry? And as you can see, some said all of these things, and this is just 26 of some of the issues that people were talking about. land and finances being number one, but you're talking about healthcare and mental health, racism, pricing, and the one that I always saw the most is overlooked. You're thinking about when we did the report, we really focused on 5 different groups. We focused on women entrepreneurs, veterans, of course, people of color, Native Indigenous, and people with disabilities. I would add a 6th one is that we were also looking at how many of our farmers are LGBTQ plus. We don't talk about those terms as much as we need to, but there again, those issues still alive. So what we found that was really interesting is that no matter where we were in terms of Crookston all the way down to Rochester, all of these barriers were similar. And it wasn't just black farmers by themselves, but we had some white farmers who said, well, I can't get a loan or I can't get land because I still have a student loan that's outstanding and that's preventing me from getting access, or I don't have insurance, or whatever the situation happens to be. These were some of the issues that were outstanding. The next slide. So one of the recommendations that came from the report is that there needed to be an emerging farmer working group / task force. And so the working group was created in May 2020. And so now that particular working group has been into effect for the last 6 or 7 months. The next slide. So we wanted the working group to actually be a reflection of the report. And those 5 or 6 groups I was talking about, it was mandatory that we felt that those folks were actually reflected into the working group. So we had 101 applications. We boiled it down to 17 group members that you see right here. 4 of these members are from 4 tribal nations. We have some veterans on here. We have women entrepreneurs. We have not only urban agriculture, but we also have a large group of various counties throughout the state that's reflected. And so this is really something that really hasn't been done before. And one of the things that I really stress to the group is that the work that you're doing is great. We cannot change anything from the outside. We have to change things from the inside. And changing things from the inside is really understanding sort of the makeup of how things work in terms of policies and laws, but also understanding the agencies of how the makeup is and sort of what the budgets are in order to really understand these systems in totality. So we are in the process of getting the recommendations next month. The working group meets once a month, except for May. And they're really focusing on working on their recommendations this month so that they can be presented next month. As I close, 2 things. The next slide, well, here we are. The slide before that. One of the things that hasn't been done before, and this is just a little bit of being honest and being real, is that the outreach to our communities when it came to agriculture prior to 2019 was not a robust intention. And when I was hired on, happened to be the first commissioner of color since 1921. So you're looking at a century to the day that there has been change, and you know that change the hands of time move very slowly. That being said, I am really proud to say that the outreach to communities, regardless of their zip code, is really intentional as to how we deliver programs. And the working group, one of their main missions is to be able to evaluate whether the programs definitely need to be enhanced, what could be strengthened and changed. And so their work is great, like I was mentioning, but I really feel that that agriculture really needs to be talked about, just like you would talk about Instagram or TikTok, that the terms really need to be synonymous with how people look at local food systems in regards to where their food comes from, how it's transported, and when they go to the store, how do they correlate that in terms of it being healthy for their families and also ways for them to be able to grow their own food. So now we go to the next slide. So we have our website. This is our website, MDA / Emerging Farmers Working Group. Here is the 2021 legislative report. So the first report in 2020 was, okay, here are the barriers. This is what we found. And now 2021 report is, okay, now that we have these barriers identified, now we have to be able to work on them. And so where do we go from here? And so the two reports is sort of an A and B of sort of how this emerging farmer initiative is moving forward. I can say this in closing, that the oral grant that we were awarded from the Historical Society is extremely important. And the reason why is because we need to be able to find out the inception of Black farmers in Minnesota before the I-94 split, before all of the issues that's been happening since the turn of the century with the McGee Memorial in Duluth, and how the Tactonite and the agriculture system up there included BIPOC farmers, and also telling these stories are for generations, not for today, it's for the future. And so I just ask that you join me and join all the members that are on the call to be able to support this work, and we can be able and be in partnership to be able to to make agriculture realized for everybody. And I always say, regardless of their zip code, is really important because these barriers need to be eliminated, but over time. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for your time and your patience, and please give me a call. The number that was reflected on there is my personal cell. So since we're not in the office, that's sort of my office for the moment. And I'll take any questions that anyone has.
Thank you so much, Assistant Commissioner Bailey. That was a wonderful presentation, and this is such exciting and important work that's happening. So thank you for your leadership on that, and thank you to everyone who's on that Emerging Farmers group. It's an impressive group of people, and great things are going to come from this, and already have started to. So, but we have some time for questions, but before we dive in, I just wanted to call out a couple things in the chat. So a couple reports have been shared. The Feast magazine volume 3 is in there. Helen also shared the USDA Census report that was mentioned in Assistant Commissioner Bailey's presentation. And there was also discussion about needing to get all farmers to sign up at the FSA, which is the what is the
Farm Service Agency.
Thank you, Farm Service Agency, and fill out the census when it comes around. A lot of emerging farmers are not well connected. There was a question about what FBM means, which is the Farm Business Management.
Yes. You know, in regards to farm business management, the exciting thing is that working with Keith Olander and Central Lakes Community College, we're actually working on putting getting a FBM program in the metro. And so that's never been done before, but it's sorely needed in order to service all of our urban and metro farmers and entrepreneurs. So.
Excellent. That's fantastic. And one question that was shared in the chat is, how do we disaggregate BIPOC farmers to honor the unique identities, experiences, barriers, and assets that they represent in MDA data, policy, funding, and interventions?
Well, that's a great question, and there's always a healthy debate when it comes to people of color, BIPOC, and neither term is representative of any group per se, because that doesn't define who people are in the great diversity that we have within the state. With that being said, there is a lot of work that needs to be done in regards to not only translation services, but farm to table, farm to school initiatives. Also, we're looking at ways in which we can also have a emerging farmer office. That's one of the things that we're debating right now and trying to get that passed, so that could be a strong focus on just emerging farmers. That's all that person would do for the whole state. And so I'm trying to see, what's the other part of that question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was just asking, how do we disaggregate BIPOC farmers to honor their unique identities, experiences?
Yeah, I mean, currently, or I should say sadly, USDA and FSA on both the state and the federal level do not keep data of BIPOC farms or people that are farmers. I don't know why, but that's one of the things that that I had stressed the last 2 years, is that we need a directory. I know each different groups have their own directory, so it's not really one synonymous directory, but there needs to be a directory where all of the emerging farmers or farmers of color are all housed in one particular area, so we know how to get services out to everybody equally. And so we're doing more of a education and making sure that people are getting the not only the services that they need, but also the money that they need as well. Work really hard, and Helen and her group works really hard to make sure that her team is working really hard in those initiatives.
Thank you. I'll just open it up if anyone has any questions that they'd like to pose.
I have one. Hello, Patrice. How are you doing? Great to see you.
Carl.
Hey, how are we faring in the ag budget at the Capitol with the crazy shenanigans How's the ag budget faring?
Well, one of the things that I've seen so far is that, there are some legislators on both sides, mostly on the Senate side, that there's a huge disconnect between agriculture in regards to it being recognized in terms of diversity-wide, and the things that we're trying to say, that you can't talk about beginning farmers and not talk about BIPOC farmers. And some legislators don't even want to even utter the term emerging farmer or BIPOC farmer. And, there's a huge disconnect that, just so you guys know, is that the MDA budget is less than 1% of the state budget. And so to do all the work that MDA does for over 6 million people, that takes quite a bit of money that the legislature needs to be honest and pony up. But that's sort of the battle right now. We got cottage food adopted right now, so that's off the table. So we're working on lots of farmer mediation issues around translation services. So all of these different issues are things that we're still fighting, like fighting the relevance as to why it's needed. And that's where the fight is right now. So that's why I know it's not going to be it's not going to end on the 17th. It actually is going to be a special session because there's no number and we're nowhere near really getting to the core.
Thanks.
Yes.
Any other questions?
And if you think of any questions afterwards, you can always give me a call or email. Tamara and Kate, Carl, Helen, they all have my contact info. So
I have another quick one if nobody else does. Is there going to be money to beef up the farm link?
There is.
Oh, okay, good.
There's actually 150,000 that's going directly for FarmLink. For those who don't know about FarmLink, FarmLink is one of the programs that we have, and then I always kind of like to say it's like a Craigslist for land. And the land, you have land, I need land. It's not just rent land for the rural areas, it's also for the metro. And the uniqueness about this program that we need to continue to not only update the system from 2015, but we need to also advertise it in such a way that people know what FarmLink does. And so if you are looking for land and there happens to be a farmer that says, well, I don't have any heirs that is going to take over, but I do want to sell it. This is a really good way to be able to get land, and also sometimes you have a homestead on the land without having to go through a lot of middle people. And so it's just a really good program that we want more people to take advantage of. FarmLink program. Yeah.
And I'll just add that Helen just shared the link to FarmLink in the chat. Helen's fast with the chat. But for those of you on the phone, it's mda.state.mn.us/FarmLink. And that will be in the meeting minutes.
The last thing I wanted to say, thank you so much. Helen had mentioned, at the end of 2020, specifically in November, when we had CARES Act dollars that came in and we had to move $500,000. LEDC and media worked so well together in order to really assist getting out, dispersing 187 awards within 30 days. And, to get $500,000 in a little over a month was fantastic. But it couldn't have been done without the partnerships between making sure that the fiscal sponsor was not MDA, it was those two organizations to make sure the money got out. So just want to say thank MEDA and LEDC so much.
Yeah. That's incredible. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Assistant Commissioner Bailey, for your time tonight and the wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you join us. And if anyone has any questions that come up, again, feel free to reach out to the contact info that Assistant Commissioner Bailey shared, or Tamara or myself, and we can help get you connected.
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay, well, we get to continue with other exciting presentations and updates from folks tonight. So next on our agenda is we'll be sharing some great urban agriculture updates in regards to Minneapolis. And so first up is David Macunza. I hope I said that correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. From Hennepin County, who will be sharing about Hennepin County's pilot program.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. You pronounced my name correctly. Thank you. Yeah, that is a hard act to follow. But like Patrice, this is my first attendance to the Food Council meeting. I apologize that I don't have any slides to share with you all, but I hope that this presentation will be informative. By way of an introduction, my name's David Mukunza. I work in resident and real estate services at Hennepin County. Our department is responsible for managing tax forfeited properties, which includes sites, lots of varying areas. And this pilot program, we initiated it early this year. We were considering innovative ways of optimizing existing unbuildable lots within Minneapolis. And prior to initiating this program, I had held discussions with Tamara sometime late last year with a view of creating some synergy through collaboration with Homegrown Minneapolis. And the whole objective was to try and enhance food production and fighting food insecurity. So currently, within this pilot program, we have earmarked about 8 sites. The average site area is approximately 3,000 square feet. And we are sort of using a website plus social media, which has generated a lot of interest. And the whole premise to this pilot program is aligned to one of the county's overarching goals of healthy. And I think some of the key benefits that we hope to achieve is enhancing active and healthy living, social interaction, mental health therapy, particularly during this COVID-19 climate. But more importantly, we hope we will be able to access to good nutrition to the residents of Minneapolis. I think initially there was everyone went around to talk about a word. I think my word is beets because I planted some seeds a few days ago and I saw some sprouts, so I'm quite a happy chap today. So quite excited to be harvesting them in a couple of months' time. But mine is just a brief, somewhat overview, but I want to thank you all for giving me an opportunity to make a short update about urban agriculture. I'm more than happy to take any questions and thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. That's exciting to hear about this pilot from Hennepin County. Are there any questions, folks? Tamara, you can go.
I want to first thank you, David, for all the work you've done since we first talked to actually launch so quickly this pilot. And I'm wondering if you would be able to share any of the geographic location of any of these parcels. I know that also the group may not be aware that, you know, we are talking about sharing your links as soon as you have that available. So maybe you could also speak to when we'll be able to share out more information about how folks can learn more about the program and access the sites.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll try and find the. That's a great question. I will try and find the website. I'm more than happy to share it in the link shortly. If you just bear with me, I'll be able to find it, and then I can share it on the link. And then, but it's quite interactive. It kind of shows the locality of these sites. And you know, I mean, broadly, we have 3 in District 4, and the remaining 5 are in District 2 within Minneapolis. But I will share the web link momentarily.
And these would be the Ward 4 and 2, the council wards, or is that what you would be referring to?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Looks like we have a question from Helen.
What's the land tenure length anticipated with the pilot? Are these 1 year or is it seen as an interim use versus more permanent? Can you speak to that aspect of it?
Yeah, thank you, Helen. That's a great question. I think because this is somewhat a pilot program, I think we are sort of considering it to be more seasonal, aligned to just for a year. Obviously, if this proves to be successful, I think we'll probably extend our reach and look at other sites. I mean, the whole objective is to turn some of these sites into productive use. Yeah, absolutely. So.
I'm wondering if you could also share if you are replicating the process that the city is using, or if you are, having the same requirements where, we charge $1 for a community garden, but require a nonprofit or business, sponsor and a, liability insurance certificate and such. Are those same kind of expectations going to be a part of your program process?
Absolutely, absolutely. Actually, we have tried to replicate some of the criteria that you guys have used, because obviously we are fully aware that some of the applicants may be willing to run a business, whereas others are more using it on a leisure basis. So yeah, the fees will vary depending on the intended applicant or use of it. Yeah, but the criteria is more or less similar to what you have, Tamara.
Thank you. And I think you are also referring to it, at the city, we do lease for market gardens and community gardens. And so having both of those options is something that we certainly appreciate offering. And the price does vary a little bit based on that intention, as you say, with our program as well.
Yeah, thank you.
There was one question in the chat about the link, and I think that David is working to get that to us. And so if it's put in the chat, we can share it out, and we can also be sure to send it out to folks after the meeting as well.
Thank you.
Great. Well, if there's no further questions for David, we can thank you, David, again so much for sharing that exciting update with us. And next we'll hear from Rebecca Gross about Minneapolis Parks and Recreation Board's Community Garden Program.
Hey everybody, I'm just going to give a really quick update about the season so far. Let's see, from September to February, we had 260 individual applications come in for plots. That's within neighborhood parks in Minneapolis. And that was for about 130 plots that we had available. So clearly demand continues to outpace what we have. We have 8 sites that are available across the city. I'll list them off quick so folks know. On the north side, there's Lavelle and Sumner Field Parks. South side has Sibley and Powderhorn. East of the river has Dickman and Northeast, and then Towerside and Prospect Park. And then in downtown areas, there's Loring Park and Franklin Steel. We also have 4 off-park sites that continue to be used by community. So those are gardens that are basically on land that the Minneapolis Park Board purchased in order to prevent the loss of that space due to, tax forfeiture, other kind of development threats. So those 4 sites are at Shalom and Sioux Line Gardens, Bancroft Meridian, and then Common Ground Garden up in the Shingle Creek neighborhood. And then plans for this year, we're working on a couple of sites right now, hoping to have the Sepro site up and running for next year. That's a recently acquired property. It did belong to Hennepin County, and the park board just got it a few years ago, but it's at right off the Greenway and 10th Avenue, like over by the Midtown Global Market. And then also working on some plans for PV. And a couple of expansions, hopefully at some of our more popular sites. I think at Loring Park alone, there's about 25 garden spaces there, and we had almost 100 folks request plots. So yeah, that's pretty much my update. I'm happy to take any questions.
Wow, those are great updates. And it's so exciting how far the program's come, and it sounds like how much demand there is, thinking back to when Food Council, you know, here at Homegrown, we were working on letters of support and things to get this started. So incredible to see how much it's grown. So that's really great. And yeah, we can take some questions. I see Tamara has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. Likewise, Becca, for everything you're doing. You are so busy building such a robust program so quickly. I'm curious your capacity to keep expanding to meet that demand you're seeing. You mentioned just the one site, how much more demand there was. Are you able to, is it mostly focused in certain gardens that way, or are you able to kind of also increase your capacity in other sites as well? Kind of what degree of kind of resource and capacity will there be to be able to expand to meet that need that you're seeing?
I would say each site is kind of different, has sort of different capacity challenges. Looking at Loring as an example, it's located within the horseshoe courts, and we kind of took over half of the horseshoe court space. So I would say like the capacity limitation in that garden is negotiating with horseshoe players to see if they'll give up more space. But I would generally limitations have mostly to do with staff time, but we're going to have a seasonal employee working on the program this summer. He'll start in June, and that will really help.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Can you provide just a little bit more background, I guess, if anybody is new to the program, as to what the kind of process is? And I do see a question in the chat about how you decided between prospective gardeners who did apply for access. So I think in relation to that question, as well as just kind of overall what a gardener might be required to pay, or kind of how that works for your program.
Yeah, so the community garden policy for parks was passed in 2018, and that kind of for the first time allowed for those plot-based community gardens to start, where people can have their own little space to grow food for the year. And the process for prioritizing gardeners is all kind of laid out within that policy. So folks turn in a pretty brief but open-ended question application each year, and we use that application to prioritize Minneapolis residents who don't have access to land outside the parks, intend to grow food in their plot, and then, oh, sorry, I'm just spacing on the third criteria at this moment. Who have some kind of connection to the park. So there's not like a proximity requirement, but if somebody lives nearby and, you know, utilizes the park frequently, that would give them priority over somebody who might live farther away or has never been to the park.
Any other questions for Becca?
Wondering if there's a good place to run around at the gardens, maybe, and find some rabbits or some bones. Yes, some good dog parks, maybe. Are there? Sorry. Yeah, I think, as was mentioned, really amazing progress from you know, when the Food Council definitely was involved in conversations. And I even saw a name on the Emerging Farmers kind of leadership team that Mia Ulysses, who is now represented in that group, was so involved in the effort to help to bring the park board process forward. So it's really great both to see leaders still involved in new ways, as well as this program really evolved to have the resources and a staff to actually support it. That's really wonderful. And so appreciate you both wearing the hat of a community garden coordinator and a food council member, and helping to be a bridge across our programs and our institutions. And as David had indicated with Hennepin County, looking for that similar synergy, I think it just really is our responsibility as institutions to try to think that way and make it easier for our residents to navigate what can be a very complicated bureaucratic process. And certainly we still have work to do across our institutions on that effort, as we have real nascent efforts in all of our programs to be more of a robust actual opportunity. But really great to have us all in the same call. It's such a great start there, and to have the Department of Ag represented likewise. I just am real hopeful about our ability to offer more opportunities this way. So I want to say thank you to all of you who've already spoken, and we will give a little update about kind of the current operations of the Garden Lease program and kind of what we anticipate ahead. And if Grace is still here, I could have her kick us off, because I will just say we had a opportunity to bring on AmeriCorps Vista in partnership with the Promise Zone. And Grace, it's not even been, I think, maybe quite 2 months now that she's started and just really hit the ground running, or cultivating, or whatever analogy we want to use here. It's been really wonderful to have somebody help to support the Garden Lease program, among other things. So Grace, would you like to share any updates if you are able to unmute and speak right now?
Yeah, for sure. Wow, the chat is making my work phone blow up. So yeah, I'm not sure kind of what numbers you have that you wanted to talk about, Tamara. But what I've been up to, and kind of the biggest changes this year, are getting the new garden leases up and running, and getting all of those materials together. So I basically am helping walk through. I did come kind of in the middle, unfortunately, of the application process, but I've kind of stepped in as a point of contact for these different new opportunities. Some of them are expansions of existing gardens. We have a few lots that asked to have lease the lot right next door, and we also have some new organizations who are leasing new gardens. At this point, we have about 13 new community gardens that are in process of being leased. So that is in addition to any that are in renewals or are in a longer lease that doesn't need a renewal yet. And also hopefully one new market garden. These are in different stages during the leasing process, but hopefully we can get all of those handled soon. It is, as Tara was mentioning, a long process and kind of bureaucratic to get everybody through with a lot of different requirements. So it's been great to kind of get a better look at how that works and what's needed, and help folks, answer any questions, whether it's, getting insurance or even finding someone to sponsor a garden, because a lot of folks might be interested, but don't have the organizational connections to provide that liability insurance and be the ones who are actually signing the lease. So that's sort of the updates with the new ones, Tara. I mean, I can talk about the total numbers if you want, but I don't have it pulled up. If you want to talk about it as well.
Yeah, I can share on that, and I just really appreciate you being a team member who got to right into work and helped, as you mentioned, this number of applications, having somebody to help process those with all of the steps that need to happen really has been really important to people to actually participate in the program. And so, as you mentioned, having that many in process going into the season, we had about 60 that were being leased. And just for some really quick history, back in 2010 is when this started as a pilot program. So it's fun, speaking of Hennepin County, thinking of a pilot and where we are now. When I came to the city in 2014, there were about 20 parcels being leased. And now to be at 60 about 7 years later is really quite an increase. And really, we don't kind of operate the same way the park board does, where there's plots that people apply for. These are lots that folks apply for. And so in doing so, an organization can apply to lease an entire city lot, and then that could be only a few hundred square feet, or it could be a few thousand. So it's great to hear also the average size of the county lots that are being offered, because ours certainly were a product of whatever we could find available, both from the CPED inventory, our partners in offering land for lease, as well as also as a result of Food Council advocacy, Public Works land being part of the program. And there were maybe 1 or 2 lots possibly that were Public Works owned that were part of the program prior to the process that did occur, where Public Works, as a result of a staff direction after City Council and Food Council kind of discussion, really did make some more of their inventory available. And there are currently about 10 Public Works parcels that are part of that 60 gardens being leased. And so really that was definitely an impactful expansion within the offerings that the city has had. And important factor about the Public Works lots in the context of that land tenure has been that because that land is owned for a different purpose than the CPED owned land has been, those lots are available for a longer time frame. A 1-year kind of introductory lease is what's offered to anybody who does get a lease to start, and then those can be turned into a 5-year lease more quickly on the Public Works lots. Yes, we have about 60 and will be approaching, I think, 70 lots if all of these applications are transformed into active leases this year. And as Grace mentioned, the rest of them we call renewals. If there are sometimes some that do leave the program, and then those lots, if somebody does not renew a lease, is then offered to be available for a new applicant. And we did have a priority process in the winter, which Grace came in on the tail of after we had already gotten our applications and were reviewing them, and fortunately in time to help folks. And we do aim to try to have our leases begin April 1st and go through the end of March. But at this point, it is May 12th, I believe, and we're still trying to get some leases started. Then they will run through March 31st of 2022, and would be depending on what type of land available for different lengths of time. So that's kind of the path to get us to where we are today. At our, hopefully will be our next meeting in June, we anticipate having a bit more of a lengthy conversation and focus on the implication of the type of land that has been made available on those 50 currently leased lots, and those additional lots that are in the process of getting leases that are on the CPED owned land, which have been made available on an interim basis, and that land having been acquired initially for development by the city originally, that then makes that land subject to the marketing and development for housing at some point, potentially, given that being the purpose of how it was put into the program and the type of leases that have been offered to date. And so we are at a point where there is more crisis in housing that we all know is affecting us all in so many ways, and those folks unhoused and having a hard time finding housing. Our city has a number of initiatives and resources allocated toward this issue as a way to really expedite and enhance the the development for housing on land. And so what I will anticipate hopefully at our next meeting is we'll have partner collaborator from CPED able to share their background, and we will share a bit more from the Homegrown Minneapolis and Health Department perspective. And what we're looking to try to do together is look at some potential changes that the City Council could consider for the program, and then to when we're able to bring that to City Council, have that conversation there as well. But in the meantime, this is something that we are looking at as collaborating departments. The Health Department, Community Planning and Economic Development, and Public Works are 3 departments that do collaboratively implement this program, with Homegrown Minneapolis housed in the Health Department at this point. Previously sustainability, and sustainability is a part of this conversation as well. So I don't need to belabor this part any further now, since we will look to hopefully at our next meeting be able to dig in deeper and have a productive time together and looking at where that is at. So I can stop with our update there and take any questions if there are any as well. I did see in the chat that the link was shared from Hennepin County for folks who may not have noticed that. And I see that Becca has also shared a link. So some great resources there. And as others, I am very happy to take questions offline, and you all know my email. If you get too many from me, I'm certain. So you know how to find me, and really will provide more updates as they are available to the full group, as well as through the other mechanisms we have together.
Great. Thank you, Tamara, and thank you, Grace, for the updates. And it sounds like we'll have some more updates and discussion next month as well in regards to the city program. So that's great. We'll just pause if there are any questions. Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, great. Well, again, if questions come up, you can email Tamara or save them for next month when we talk about this again. So our next set of updates is regarding our food action plan. So I'll pass it back to Tamara.
Yes, and I will be very brief again. This is just one of those brief updates, and more concrete next month. But I think you heard from Anu last month about the reconfiguration of the structure. And so as these bureaucratic institutions do move at the bureaucratic pace, we are still working on really realigning and moving our effort forward. And I have, had conversation with the executive committee about being able to potentially at our next meeting, if executive committee as well as food council, looking at the update on the sequencing of what we can anticipate next. There's a lot in the works here, both with the work moving forward to do our cultural community input, as well as those topical deep dives. We are in the process of reconnecting with our consultant and trying to re-energize some of that work as well, since we had some funding that both was sitting in the city kind of carryover process and took some time to finally get approval of, as well as through the Princeton contract, which will likely flow now differently through the University of Minnesota. So I am also very hopeful and optimistic that the logjam in that current is broken, and we are moving forward in these different kind of pathways of work, and we'll have some really great opportunities and updates very, very soon for us all to dig into together and to get to this next really, really important phase of having a plan and community daylight on those areas. So more very soon, and just really thankful for the patience and the persistence of this group in getting to where we are, and really knowing that there is around the corner some some substantive, not just updates, but opportunities to bring this to fruition. So we'll get to that next month too.
Thanks, Tamara, and thank you for your persistent leadership through this food action planning process. So we're excited for the next phases. With that, that's our agenda for tonight, and so we do have some time for announcements. So I would invite any council members if they have announcements, and then after that we can also, if community members have announcements as well, feel free at this time to unmute and share any announcements you have.
Hi, this is
Tasha's hand up.
Hey, Kate. I was just saying that this Saturday, the Northside Fresh Sealant distribution will be at AFC Home Office, 1200 West Broadway, between the times of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Awesome, thank you. If you happen to have a link to that and drop it in the chat, we can make sure that gets in the meeting notes. But thank you, that's an exciting event to note for this Saturday. I'll mention there was, Teresa reminded us of an announcement in the chat, which is that one of our very own food council members, Beth Dooley, has a new cookbook coming out called The Perennial Kitchen. And I believe the launch party, I just had it up, it's a virtual launch party happening on Monday, May 17th. And I think if you go to the website, here's the Eventbrite I can put in the chat. You can register for to receive your ticket and the Zoom links for this launch party. Otherwise, I'm sure we can get some scoop from Beth at a future meeting, but check it out. It's called The Perennial Kitchen. While I'm unmuted, I'll also share an update, I guess, which is this, that so many of you may know that during COVID-19, Minneapolis Public Schools has been providing free meal boxes that families can pick up for free for any child 18 or under, as well as food in schools for our students that have returned to in-person learning. And we did announce recently that our free meals will continue this summer. So our meal boxes will continue at some pickup sites. We'll also be resuming daily meals at community sites. We partner with a lot of parks and other programs across the city, and so those will be free meals will also be available for youth. And we will also continue to offer home delivery of our food boxes to qualifying families. So just wanted to mention that, spread the word that we will have those free meals continuing for any youth 18 or under. They don't need to be enrolled in Minneapolis Public Schools. And the one other quick thing I'll mention, which is just kind of a fun thing, if anyone has kids or knows kids they want to share this with, which is that typically every spring, Minneapolis Public Schools organizes a junior and chef cooking competition where middle schoolers get to team up with local chefs, and it's a Top Chef competition. Since we're not able to host that in-person event again this spring, we are doing a recipe competition where anyone 18 or under can create an original recipe at home and submit their recipe, and we will have some of our chefs test out and taste the finalists' recipes, and there'll be a prize for our winning junior chef. So for all of you with kids at home, consider it. It could be a fun activity, and spread the word to everyone else. The recipes just need to include at least one fresh fruit or vegetable. It could be something seasonal, who knows? And then an ingredient from our pantry list, and that's on our website. So I'll put the link in the chat, but just a fun kid/family opportunity that I thought I'd mention. Any other updates from folks?
Fresh produce did remind me, I'm sure everyone here knows, but a reminder, farmers markets are starting to open for this season, so that's exciting. This is a big opening weekend. A couple weekends in from now, we also have a lot more opening. There's some opening kind of every weekend through the end of June. So find your local one by your house. It's going to be fun and it's going to be a great year. COVID precautions are still in place, so all markets will be still requiring masks and social distancing and no eating on site, but it'll be a fun time. Please come. It'll be great. See you there.
And it's also super fun to get your vaccine. And so I put, it's much more fun to get a vaccine than to get COVID. So I put in the information about our health department run clinics and also clinics that we're organizing at schools, at Minneapolis public high schools. So take a look at that. Information is on our Vaccine Hub webpage as well.
Thank you, Patty. Well, if there's no further announcements, then we can wrap up. So we've completed all the items on our agenda for this evening. Thank you, everyone, council members, committee members, city staff who've joined us, special guests who've joined us, for participating in tonight's meeting and discussion. You can always reach us at homegrown@minneapolismn.gov. So before we adjourn, I'll just check, do any other council members and staff have any other matters they wish to bring to the council before we officially adjourn? Okay, I'll take that as a no. And so I will declare this meeting adjourned. Our next Homegrown Minneapolis meeting will be on June 9th at 5:30 p.m. So thank you all for joining us tonight, especially on such a beautiful day. It was wonderful to be here in this virtual community space with all of you, and take care. Enjoy the weather.
Thank you, Kate, Tamara, Sega.
Thanks, everyone.